Good. That's all we can do. It's all we can do
Okay,
in life, isn't it?
apparently.
Man.
You catch me at the end of a very stressful day, so it's all coming out now. I'm
Oh,
loosening up.
so what is it? I mean, you do like 12 different jobs, so you got to be stressed.
I'm trying to get less stressed. I'm working on that.
Isn't that where we are in life at this point? We're trying to be less stressed because you and I are from the same generation. So it's where we're at. Like, I want no stress, and it's not possible.
Correct, correct. And the weird thing is, the less I try to do, the more I end up doing. Um, I don't know how to figure that one out. How does that happen? But and I don't mind doing all the work, but sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, as I'm sure you can understand.
We're semi control freaks to some degree. We want to have our hands in so many different things. And
Yeah,
suddenly being described as a creative, there's so many different things that we want to do.
yeah. And why not?
Do the best that we can. Now, I'm not sure if you remember, we spoke many years ago. I had the pleasure of speaking with you 10, 12 years ago. It's probably the last time that you released some music too.
Ooh,
And
well, no, I mean the last
well,
album
other
was
than June.
2 years. Yeah. That other album before, yeah. Everything Changes. Was it? Was it Everything Changes?
Yes, it was.
Probably. Yeah.
Which did really well here in the States.
I don't know if it did. I don't know if it didn't. I'm of that sort of headspace now where I just do the work, put it out there, and I wish it well, and I wave it goodbye. And I move on to the next. I find it a little frustrating when people, say, "Well, how's it going? How many of you saw?" I don't know. I don't. Yeah, in today's world of counting numbers, I don't have a clue. It's out there. If people like it, they listen to it, great, and they pass it on. If they don't, so be it. But it's not the old ways anymore. It's impossible to kind of. I find it very difficult to comprehend how everything works these days in the world out there in regards to people listening or buying your music, especially with the likes of Spotify, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. But um, so I've just realized that the best thing to do as a creative, as an artist, is just to get on with the work, look forward, never look back, and just do the best you can, as you said.
Now, I wasn't going to bring this up, but now we talk about our old school days. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your first set list, your first tour in 85. I had the pleasure of seeing you
Oh, geez. Yeah.
way back when. And here's just some of the songs. And first of all, your first album was unbelievable. So you got to be really
Thank
proud
you.
of it. That must have been an unbelievable amount of pressure for that first album.
I didn't think about it. It was more about being in the presence of someone you admired. Well, someone you listen. Phil Ramone was the god of gods to me in the production world, and I had been a massive Billy Joel fan for years, and the Nylon Curtain was the one that really got me, and was the one that really got me interested in trying to make that a workable situation through Atlantic. And that happened, and I was in awe of him. And because he brought in the band basically, apart from a couple of key players from my end. That one being Justin Clayton, my oldest friend in the world since the age of 11. We're still doing projects together. We're going to be releasing some other stuff early next year, an EP of madness. So I'm happy that we're still in that place together. We're good old friends, and but yeah, I mean, I've always been relatively shy. I still am to a degree, but back in those days, you know, being with Phil, being with all that scene, because you got to realize that, I didn't really grow up around the music industry. I mean, after mum and dad separated, I I wasn't hanging around studios. I didn't know what that felt like or meant, so with Phil and um, with so many amazing musicians on the first album, and uh, I mean, I was a nervous wreck. I mean, just a nervous wreck. So I just, again, did my best, and I wasn't a singer. I didn't go out and do the rounds. You know, so obviously some confidence built in the studio through the process, but I still don't think I'm a singer. I have, as it's commonly known as imposter syndrome, where I'm totally into. I have no idea what I do or whether I'm really me. I just not a clue, really. I go with the flow and hope for the best, as you said.
All we can do is go with the flow. So talking about that first tour, I remember you appearing on Letterman, which was like
Okay.
one of the biggest shows ever.
Yeah.
Right there, I would have thought that would have been the most nervous. And by chance, I was away at college at the time, and that's how we ended up coming to see you, because on our girls' sister floor, they had no idea who you were. Like, we had to listen to you scream during your 14-song set the entire time. Like, would you stop
I'm
already?
sorry.
They're like, oh, we really like this, the album. Like, we really like this Day Tripper song. I'm like, never mind, and I just happened to be working.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Letterman
That
I would have
was
thought Letterman would have been the most difficult. So
he was scary. I mean, I admired him greatly. I watched him, every night. So I was a major fan. But and he was a bit of a hardballer, to say the least. But what I didn't know is that he made you feel relatively comfortable during the interview, but when the camera was off, he'd literally turn around, take a sip of tea, and you'd, as a newbie, you'd be sitting there going, "Oh, I feel totally alone. I feel, I didn't feel comforted or warm, or it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. He wasn't the warmest man on the planet, for sure. But again, it was a pleasure to do his show, and meet the guy. I still respect him, still love him.
Sure, obviously, he's a Hall of Famer, and you're Grammy nominated, and off you went. I would have thought even the MTV years, you were kind of everywhere on MTV as well.
I mean, I just did what I thought I was supposed to do. I was following the mold of a young pop star as presented to me by the label. And at that age, I mean, age is young pop stars today. It's a totally different game. I think they're a fair amount wiser. Certainly, some are. But back in the day, I mean, I didn't have a clue. I really didn't have a clue. The last thing I did before I did the album was I was working on a farm herding sheep in North Wales. So go figure. Well, mum used to live on this beautiful 12-acre farm, and the guy across the valley rented the land. But in the summers and winters when I wasn't at school, I'd be helping out, lambing and things like that. So, from that to London to Phil Ramone to Alabama to I'm trying to remember the name of the studio, the famous studio. Oh my God, why am I blanking?
Muscle Shoals, was it?
Muscle Shoals, yeah, of course, yeah. Because I mean, going down to Muscle Shoals was, you want to talk about a different planet in many respects for a young English boy to go to. That was a hell of an experience. But I was also sad because I know there was a documentary done about it, but I wasn't able to do it. There was some miscommunication, and so I was a bit sad not to be part of that. But hey, it is what it is.
Do you think you've gone full circle? I mean, you re-recorded, what was it? I Should Have Known from,
Yeah,
that was from, what, the Photograph Smile
yeah,
CD.
yeah. Well, the thing, listen, I've wanted to redo a number of tracks, or re-release a number of things, but
Sure.
I still don't have ownership of my material. Uh, yeah, so yeah, go
Wow.
figure. I figured I was supposed to get my songs back, the ownership back in the last years, but there was another tricky little clause
Always.
that was made apparent that I probably won't get it back for at least another 5 to 7 years. I'm going, this is insane, And the thing is, I wouldn't mind if the labels actually worked it, but it feels like they've just put the stuff on the shelf, literally. And that's what ticks me off, that, having to ask permission to redo my own things or remix my own things. It's anyway, I'll get it back one day, and I still feel very sprightly, and I'm ready to do a lot more work. I don't, this thing called age, I don't know what that is. I'm in total denial. I think age is your energy. As long as you're in good stead, which I feel I am, probably healthier than I've ever been, really. I don't really drink anymore. I don't really go out anymore. I've become a boring old fart. No, I'll enjoy the odd occasion, but I actually just enjoy feeling good, waking up, and looking forward to a good day's work.
Well, this is true. This is very true. Plus, if you look at where we're at in life, we've got a different perspective. It's we don't have to tolerate some of the things we probably tolerated when we were younger. I know I don't.
Well, I'm trying to move towards that. I think obviously there's being a public figure to a certain degree. Not that you want to be rude to people, but you've got to be careful about how you say things. I can't just say, I'm not that kind of person, nor would I appreciate that being said to me unless I was doing something really bad. But let's go back. Yeah, so I definitely especially this year. I mean, there's been so much work. I mean, after putting the album Jude together, which was 5 years, and then having this opportunity to do a photography book, coffee table book, which will be out later this year. That was hard graft. That was really, really difficult. Editing literally tens of thousands of images down to 280 or something like that. And basically, if I have like a collection of images from, say, Cuba, there'll be 50 images that I've shot around the country, and you're being told, or not being told, but you're being advised that you need to edit that down to anywhere between 4 and 8 images. And you're going, how am I going to do that? How am I possibly going to edit down 50 images to 4 to 8 images? And you realize that you can hone in on your work and tell the same story within 4 images that you did 40 images. So that was a really, really good learning lesson in being able to cut down all these collections into one book, because again, many people don't know I'm a fine art photographer. And so the idea behind the book also was that it was, retrospective, that it was a collection of my better work, I guess. It's not all the work, but certainly things I would like people to see first and understand first about why I do what I do. And then this option of doing an incredible exhibition in Venice during the Biennale, the film festival, at the International Center of Photography, which is a museum, alongside Helmut Newton. Yes, please, thank you very much. I've been doing photography for a fair amount of time now. I think it's 2010 was when I really started with the first exhibition. But to be in that kind of privileged position, it's been a lot of work this year. That's all I'm saying, is that between that, the book, the exhibition, and a number of other little musical projects here and there, and I Should Have Known. And there's Justin, as I said, Justin and I are working on something for probably spring next year. I'm trying to find that place where I can breathe, where I can still do all that work, but breathe. But the problem with certain circumstances is that you are sometimes dictated by other people's time schedules.
Always.
And with an exhibition consideration, places that museums and galleries are booked up for years in advance. I don't think people understand that there's a real waiting game and a shuffle that you have to play with, to find the space at the right time with the right exhibition. It's not just a quick flick of the dice. It's to schedule all of this stuff is it's a lot of work. It really is.
Even more. You can only have so many images, so you have to go through that again.
I think one of the what I'm grateful for is having done the book just prior to the exhibition, because that really showed me how to do that. So I used the photography coffee table book, Life's Fragile Moments is its name. I used that as a guideline for the exhibition in Venice. So that helped me a great deal. Had I not done that first, I'm not sure I would have managed to pull it off without losing my mind completely. Really.
So how did you end up with photography? Like, is it something that you just saw even when you were younger, or is that something that's just happened over time?
I mean, everybody around me growing up, I had camera one way or the other, and I know when Dad was with May in New York, he used to have I'll have to name the brand, of course, the Polaroid SX70, which was the fold.
We all had those.
Which I still love. I still have it here. And it's one of my favorite cameras, purely because of its feel and its timelessness. And so Dad had that around, and I remember playing with that a lot. And May Pang was around at certain points, and she was taking pictures. There was always people taking pictures, so it always intrigued me. And even living with Mum, I had a little Cine 8 video camera, so I'd make little videos, make little films, do all that as a kid, and then over the years I was just taking photographs, but nothing for anything except a bit of a memory, And I guess I think Timothy White, who was my kind of friend and mentor, he was the one that really not pushed me, but guided me into the idea of doing photography, because we were doing a campaign for the Lupus Foundation of America, with which I'm ambassador for a song called Lucy, because
Great
Lucy
song.
Bowden, the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, had died from lupus. So we were doing a song. We did a photo shoot for the single. My dear friend Timothy White, who did the second and third album covers, was doing the photo shoot. I'd requested that, and I'd edited some of the photos he sent me.
Mm.
And he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "How do you know how to do this?" I said, "I don't really. I'm just screwing around with it." Because you shouldn't screw around with other people's photographs. That's one thing you shouldn't do. Anyway, luckily he was a friend, and he was like, "Okay." He said, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "Well, I don't. I play around with some stuff, and I've, tried a little Photoshop or Lightroom." He said, "Well, let me see what you do, or what you've done." So I had my laptop. We looked through it. He says, "These cloud images are beautiful,"
Mm.
and we spent the year on and off going through about 1,000 images to bring it down to what was the first exhibition at the old CBGB's at the Morrison Hotel Gallery.
Oh, geez. Okay.
In New York on the Bowery. And so, I just said, "Listen," he said, "You should do an exhibition." I said, "No, no way." He said, "Yeah, come on, come on." I said, "I'll only do it if you mentor me through the process." And, he did. And it was literally just going to be clouds. And the reason that I shot clouds initially was because, as a musician, when you're on these long haul flights to do shows or PR or promo around the world, and back in the day, you're lucky if you got one film to watch. We didn't have social media or any of that stuff, or a choice of 30 movies, nothing.
That's right.
So,
We had a hard life. The kids just don't know how hard it really was.
Well, it wasn't hard. It was just different. I almost prefer it. That's dare I say it? Oh my God. But I used to spend that time while everybody was asleep, just staring out the window, looking out the window.
I do the same.
And I would either think about absolutely everything, try and figure out my life and my future, or did something happen just then?
Yeah,
to figure out. Yeah, there you go.
We've got bad storms going through, so
we have storms here and lightning right now, so we're okay at the moment. Thunder has passed. But yes, while looking out the window, you either think of absolutely everything, your future and where you're going in life, or trying to plan what your future is as best as you can, or you find those moments to do absolutely nothing at all and just be, I won't say numb, but certainly at peace. And I always just used to find clouds so moving and just so beautiful, the colors, the shapes. And I just started taking pictures of them over the years. And I began to realize, they only exist for a split second once. And that related to it. Then I started clicking that related to absolutely everything in life. It only happens once. That's it, and we're on to the next thing. So that was an important moment for me. But the first show was mostly clouds initially, until I was at this house in France, in the south of France, and the U2 boys, who I knew relatively well, had a summer house down the road, and they said, any chance we could use if you're going off to New York, could we use your space, to record? I said, yeah, sure, why not? Bono clapping, walking through the house, not yelling, but singing and, doing a little bit of opera, and he's going, "Yep, sounds great in here," and I'm going, "Great, okay." And I had a friend who lived next door, so I actually went next door. And the funny thing was, my exhibition was delayed, the first one. There was some delay. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I ended up staying at my friend's house next door to my house, so to speak, with U2 in it. And I get a call going, how's the coffee machine work? How's the AC work? And I'm going, you're kidding me. I mean, if I wasn't here next door, the coffee machine was broken, the AC. I'm just so make sure they sign a contract before you let them in your house. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Joking. But
That is funny.
jokes aside. So anyway, I when I did come over to make sure things were okay, Edge said to me, "Listen, I know you want to take some pictures. I'll talk to the boys and see if they're cool with it." And that's when I came over here and fly on the wall stuff, just quietly keeping out of their way because I didn't really know them that well. So I was taking a few shots and I'd take them back to next door, put them up on the computer, and I'd go, "These are crap. They look like they just look like somebody had walked in the room and taken a picture like that. There was nothing. I mean, truly awful." And the one thing that changed everything in photography for me was this one picture in particular,
Right.
which is called "Someone to Look Up To," which is Bono was in the main studio room, and I'd taken a few pictures, and I was a bit tired, and it was the end of the day, and he was just sitting on a chair, leaning forward, looking out the window, and I decided to lay on the floor with my camera, and we were just kind of chatting like that. And directly from the floor to him and behind him was this picture of Dad, taken from Hamburg, taken by Astrid back in his early days. And that shot, the perspective alone, I just went, "Oh, for F's sake, there it is. There it is. It's perspective. It's perspective. Don't take anything head on. Never do that again unless you're just taking holiday snaps. That's it." And that changed everything in photography for me. So that enabled me to put, a bunch of photographs together, and I had to get their permission. But I said, "Listen, I'm doing my first ever show. If you say yes to a couple of images, can I include them in my first ever?" And they were really gracious. That these were private moments that of them writing and behind the scenes. And I in the photography book I say a big thanks to them because that was part of the beginning of my photography career. And the show ended up being a lot more interesting for two reasons. Number one, you walked into the first room, which is all light and bright and lovely and fluffy and clouds and colors. And then you had this picture called Timeless, which was of a dark road at night, which I took on Sean's tour. And then behind there, through the curtains, was the black room. Now, the black room had the bar behind,
of course,
and had all the rock and roll images and pictures in there. So it was the yin and the yang at the same time.
Sure.
But that made a difference. The reviews were great. And that inspired me to carry on and continue. So that was a very long answer to your very
that was a great answer. But it's what we all need to hear and how you got there. Now, do you develop your own film, or is it strictly digital?
Okay, here's another mini story for you. I was doing an exhibition with a bunch of other Brits in Amsterdam, and I think I'm too. On one hand, I'm very, very patient in life. On the other, I'm very, very impatient. And I don't think I could deal with real film. I liked the immediacy of digital and the fact that I could play around with it straight away. And so one of my goals was to make digital look like film. And I did an exhibition in Amsterdam. It was all about British artists and photographers. And I was cornered by a well-known fine art photography critic, fine art photography critic, who she cornered me for a good, and I didn't know, I couldn't get out of the situation, but she cornered me for a good while. And finally, she came to the end of her questioning, and she said, the last question was, "So, do you?" Well, I'm not doing an accent, obviously. Do you? I won't even try. Do you use is it film or is it digital? I
Right.
said, you tell me.
Mm,
And that was the thank you very much moment. That
mm.
if she can't tell that it's not film, then I've won that position, that case. So yeah, I'm a digital guy. Uh, Purely because I like the speed of things. That's also holds true for working in the studio these days, I'm afraid.
It's true.
A studio is your laptop,
Yes.
and the sounds these days that you can get from various well-known companies, uh, Universal Audio, are beyond phenomenal. And I dare anybody to tell the difference these days. It's
That's very true.
yeah.
That's very, very
So
true with the tool.
and again, that enables me to. It's funny. I'm moving house right now, so in my new little place, I'm downsizing. And in the new smaller place, I've always wanted that studio where I walk in the door, I've got an idea in my head, I
Mm,
just press record, it's all ready to go.
mm.
I've never quite had that before, and so I tend to lose a lot of that inspirational motivation because I find the technical side of things and wiring aspects of it so time consuming in many respects, the setup. So with the digital motivation and drive forward, I am actually looking forward to doing a lot more musical work as well in the future,
Sure.
purely being able to walk into the studio, press a button, record, and off I go. I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to that because it's not necessary for albums. I don't think I'm going to do another album. I did say that about the last time around, but it was BMG and Hartwig, the CEO, that convinced me to do the last album. But in principle, I just see the way forward is really
Like there's
singles and
right. There's no
singles and
reason to put. There's no reason.
EPs.
Yeah.
No, because also it's that horrible feeling again for me, which has certainly happened to me, which is where you put your heart and soul into this work, for an album project that has a concept, that has a theme, and if one single doesn't take off, it's put on the shelf, and
Exactly.
then nobody hears it, nobody at radio plays it. It's just and I refuse to do that anymore. So I want to be in a position where I write and record, put it out there, like a lot of artists do today. And if people like it and love it, they'll connect to it. If they don't, I'm on to the next one already. But at least it hasn't been a year to 5 years of my life and me
Sure.
crying in a corner, trying to finish an album project like that. Now I can just work on material as I feel it, as it's there,
Sure.
as it arrives. So I'm looking forward to that side of things.
So what is it that we don't know about you that we haven't read? You've been, let's face it, you've been covered for your entire life. Like, what are we missing about Julian other than your name change? And I
Oh
thought
yeah.
that must have been such, not so much a burden, but something that is no longer on your shoulders that you had to carry.
Yeah, I mean that was a weird one, but with the concept and the idea of calling the album Jude as well,
Sure.
which is just the idea of truly being me, finding me at the end of the day, um, and respecting me
Hmm.
as well, and loving me. Because I'd always been seen in a different light, and people still,
Of course.
mostly Americans, I have to say. But yeah, it was a game changer for me, just for me on a personal level,
Hmm.
for my heart, my mind, body, and soul. Just to be called Julian, to be Julian, to finally
Hmm.
be me, was a biggie, and uh, I don't know. You know, oh, there you go again. It's on a timer. You're not in the toilet again, are you?
Well, we're Americans. Whatever it takes, take our phones
No,
everywhere. But
no, no, no.
you look so relaxed and so at ease of who you are. And I think that's where we're at in life. I think that's where we're both at. We're finding out who we are, who we were, and who we're going
Yeah,
to be moving forward. It's just kind of an
yeah.
interesting place to be.
And I think we need to we deserve to give ourselves a pat on the back and a
Mhm.
break at the same time because, we've been around a bit, we've done a lot of work, and we've been
But
through a lot on so many levels. And if we can find that balance, which is where I'm kind of at right now, um, also I think becoming because after the last album, Jude, it was again with a label. It was just for one album.
mm,
Being independent again for me is a saving grace.
something to be said for that.
Especially again as a creative, you don't, sometimes timelines and dates can work for you, and pressure can work for you with certain projects. No doubt about that. It sometimes helps to have your back against the wall. But as someone who wants to experiment and try and get back, I mean, I used to love painting. I used to love
Mm,
sculpting. I used to do all of that stuff as a teenager, and I want to get back to all of that. I want to, again, the new house will have a little art room
there you
where
go.
I can do all of that. That's
That's
uh,
perfect. That's the way
it's
you need to
about
be.
it's
That's where
about
we all need to
breathing.
be at some
Yeah,
point.
it's about breathing again. It
Mm,
really is. Still doing a ton of projects, but just breathing through it, enjoying
mm.
life and the process. That's what it really is all
That's the only
about.
thing I ever tell people. Just breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah, time is too short. So let's not waste our energy on things
Exactly.
that yeah
Well, we want to make sure,
we've done too much of that already, I think.
isn't that the truth? Well, we want to make sure that we get everyone to your socials to find out what's going on, to get an update on your exhibition, your latest album, I should say your latest single, and all your
Sure.
photography. So where should they go, Julian?
Well, julianlennon.com is
There you go.
generally where you can go. But I mean, for daily kind of stuff, my daily day, my catch up, my connection to people is Jules's Picture Palace
There you
on
go.
Instagram with the official blue star.
There you go. Always got to find the blue star out there.
You
Julian,
better. Too many fakes, you know that? Too many
way
fakes
too many
out there.
fakes. Just too many
Oh
fakes.
yeah. See, that's what I need to campaign. Sorry for, but I don't understand why these people exist on social media. They should be background checked. It should be signed off.
Exactly.
You should be who you are.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'll shut that one up
No,
immediately.
I believe that too. I believe
Yeah,
more can be done for all of this.
without question, without question.
And it's easy to do through an app to verify who you are. So,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and it's actually safer for everyone too. At the
mm.
end of the day.
Well, Julian, I know we're short on time. Thank you so much for being on the blend. We will have you back again with every next step. I'm looking forward.
Well, well, thank you. And so sorry if I ramble. I do
Never.
tend to ramble. One question, and I'm going for 30 minutes. Next
Uh,
time, I promise to give you more airtime.
oh, no, no, no. I'm quite all right. And perhaps one day we'll get together and I don't know, maybe you could show me how to play guitar. So
Or you can show me. I mean, I've forgotten at this point.
I've got three chords. That's all I can do is three chords. I can't.
That's about me too. That's about me too. I'm right with you there, Steve.
All right, Julian. Always a pleasure. We will see you soon on the blend.
My pleasure. Thank
All
you.
right, take care.